Usually, people assume that the Mediterranean diet is just about eating. But as a medical doctor trained in Italy, I can assure you that there are several other components that most people are missing when it comes to following a Mediterranean diet lifestyle. And it just so happens that these other components are what make it a perfect diet for longevity. So if you're interested in living a better, longer, and more vibrant life, make sure to watch this video until the end because we'll unpack the top 5 pillars that you need to adopt this way of life. Hey there, I'm Dr. Anna. I'm a medical doctor. I was trained in Italy. And on this channel, you're going to learn how to master your health with the Mediterranean diet. All right, let's start by breaking down some background of what the Mediterranean diet is. So really, we call it the Mediterranean diet because the components of it are structured around the way of eating and the actual foods that you're eating. And this derived from cultures around the Mediterranean region that were studied by researchers decades ago. And it was found that people living in this part of the world ate a diet and lived in a certain way that allowed them to live a really long time and develop lower rates of a lot of common chronic diseases. Less heart disease, less diabetes, less obesity, less cancer, less dementia, you name it. And the fact that these people had lower rates of chronic diseases made researchers very curious as to what was going on to give these kinds of results. Now, in the Mediterranean region, it's commonplace that many people grow old and live well until their final days, and consequently live a longer life overall. These people have improved longevity. Now, longevity tends to be a pretty hot topic these days. So let's break down the idea of longevity in a little bit more detail. First, let's lay out some definitions. Longevity simply is the study of how long humans can live, or in other words, increase the lifespan. Now, a subcomponent of longevity, which is very crucial for really understanding how to improve longevity, is something called the health span. And that is simply the number of years you live healthy and well without having major disease or medical burden. Now, truthfully, increased longevity is really not going to come from some secret supplement or some elixir or magic potion. The key to living longer is to be living well longer. And that's all about being healthy and thriving for as long as possible. Now, what's really awesome is that a lot of people are starting to get a grasp on this concept, and more people are interested in increasing their health span and not just their lifespan. And this is great because one of the most important parts of increasing health span is the ability to stave off disease. So the longer you can live without developing a chronic disease, the longer you're living as healthy and well as you can. So by pushing off things like the onset of diabetes, hypertension, preventing obesity, and all the complications that can come from it, you're automatically improving your health span and probably also improving your lifespan. So really, to understand what longevity is about, you have to keep both components in focus, both the lifespan and the health span. Now, as a medical doctor who's been studying nutrition for more than 10 years, here's my take on this. Since longevity is a long game, as the name suggests, the best approach to understand how to actually do this is to adopt habits and practices that are very simple and sustainable. If we're trying to take on a diet or an exercise routine that's very intense, severe, strict, we're probably not going to be able to continue doing that for the long term. And what we can do for the long term is the most important thing that's going to lead to improving our health for many years and thus improving our longevity. So I am of the opinion that adopting healthy lifestyle practices that are very easy, sustainable, and enjoyable is one of the absolute key components to nailing this equation. And what's fabulous is that there is so much research and medical evidence to back this up. The Mediterranean lifestyle and the Mediterranean diet is one of the most evidence-based ways to improve our longevity. So now today, let's break down the top 5 pillars of the Mediterranean approach that you can adopt today. But first, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe to this channel. Your subscription will help get this video out to more people who really deserve to learn this information. All right, so for pillar number 5, we have eating and nutrition. And this is where the term Mediterranean diet really comes from. Now, this is a huge subject that I talk about in several other videos on my channel, but let's summarize the key components of what the Mediterranean diet is all about. So I like to subdivide this in 2 two components. First, we have quality and we have quantity. So when it comes to quality, the quality of food, the quality of the ingredients is absolutely one of the most important tenets of the Mediterranean diet. It has an emphasis on eating lots of fresh, whole food ingredients, mostly from plants. So these are going to be things like fruits and vegetables, lots of whole grains, lots of legumes or nuts and seeds, and then having fresh seafood, fresh poultry, eggs, dairy products, a little bit of red meat, even drinking some wine. The emphasis is on using fresh, flavorful, and nutritious ingredients. And that's part of what makes the Mediterranean diet dishes so darn tasty. Using things like fresh or dried herbs, aromatic oils, and spices just bring these dishes to life, and they are so enjoyable and satiating to eat. Now let's take a step back for a second and think about this. Here's a good analogy. You have a car. You gotta put some fuel in your car. Usually it's gas, could be diesel. And we know that if we decide to pay the premium price for a little bit of a higher quality of gas, that's probably going to, in turn, help our engine run either better or longer. You can think of the Mediterranean diet in the same way. By increasing the quality of the ingredients, you're helping your body function both better and longer. Now, what was our second point of understanding the crux of the Mediterranean diet? Well, that's on quantity. Now, the quantity component is almost a result of the quality component. And here's what I mean by that. When we have improved quality of the food that we're putting into our body, our hormones, our neurotransmitters, and our body signalers are going to respond to that food so much more easily than if we're putting in lots of chemicals and processed foods with added sugars and salts and other flavorings to try to trick our brain into thinking certain things. What happens is if we're eating low quality foods, our brain is tricked into thinking that it's not full yet, it's still hungry, we end up eating too much, too quickly, and we're not even necessarily getting full from having more calories. Alternatively, when the quality of the food is really good, our body is able to regulate the quantity that we're going to eat so much better, and you don't really even have to think about this. Let's go back to our car analogy. Think of your car, and in this hypothetical example, our car is going to have an infinite fuel tank, meaning you can put as much gas in there as possible. But there's always going to be a range of quantity of gas, or the amount that you put in, that's going to help your car run the best. If you put too much in, it's probably going to weigh down your car and it will start performing more poorly. Think of this like in our body. If we're putting in too much fuel and we start gaining a lot of weight, that's going to cause problems in our joints, in our back, in our muscles. It'll also cause consequences in our metabolic health and our sleep and our mood. And then alternatively, if we're not putting enough fuel in our car, we're not going to be able to drive very far. And it works similarly for our body. If we're not eating enough and enough of the right nutrition, we're not going to get very far in life. So really, the Mediterranean diet is all about approaching food with a frame of mind that's sustainable, nourishing, supportive, and delicious. And ultimately, it's going to help you live better and longer. So if you're curious to really dig into what exactly the Mediterranean diet looks like in your grocery list, in your kitchen, in a meal, I have an entire series of videos for how to get started on the Mediterranean diet. So check out those videos up there if you're interested. But as we said in the beginning, the Mediterranean diet and lifestyle is not just about the diet. So let's break down our 4 other pillars that are really about the lifestyle components. So for our 4th pillar here, it's about socializing and increasing the amount of contact we have with other human beings. Sounds simple, right? Well, in today's world, this is actually becoming more and more difficult. We are working from home, we are having things delivered to our houses, and we're often doing things with our headphones in, and we're not engaging in a lot of social contact. The Mediterranean diet and lifestyle comes from regions of the world that have been around for millennia. And these people often engage in very social activities, eating large meals together with family, friends, or neighbors. They celebrate together, they spend time outside, they talk to each other. And it's shown in research that this is actually extremely beneficial to our health overall. And it's a big component of what helps people live well into their oldest years. We know that social contact is really important for our mood, but it's also important for our brain health. So what is it exactly about socialization that makes it so healthy? Well, there's a couple of ideas. One aspect is that the idea of talking itself is very therapeutic. And that makes sense. We have psychology that engages in talk therapy, where we can unload our stress, we can even just vent, or we can talk through a problem or something that's bothering us. It's one of the best and fastest ways to problem solve. But another hidden benefit of socializing more, especially if we're going to be doing that socializing during meal times, is that it helps us slow down our eating. And this is something that I talk about so much on this channel. Slowing down our eating is extremely important for slowing down our digestion. It's going to allow our stomach and our brain to send signals to each other to get the right amount of juices flowing so that you can break down your food, extract all of the nutrients, and absorb them in the proper way. This is also really important to help us feel full while we're eating, so we're not eating too much. And of course, if we're slowing down when we're eating, we're probably also decreasing our stress levels. If you've ever heard about our sympathetic or parasympathetic nervous systems, our sympathetic is our fight or flight. That's our times of high stress, and it's not a time when our body wants to be absorbing any food. But the parasympathetic nervous system is really taking over when it is time to eat. And this is considered the rest and digest state of being. We want to push our body into a state of calm when we're ready to have a meal, to turn on our parasympathetic nervous system and be able to extract all of the nutrition we really need. Now, what's our third pillar of the Mediterranean diet and lifestyle? Well, it's getting enough movement into every single day. Now, why do I call it movement? Typically in the United States, when we think about exercise, we're thinking about pumping iron at the gym, doing something extreme like running a marathon or doing a triathlon. Well, the truth of the matter is that people who are living in cultures that have the highest rates of longevity in the world tend to engage in very simple, continuous movement throughout every day. And this is as simple as walking more, taking the stairs, carrying grocery bags or book bags for many years. And it's super common to see older adults in their 80s or even 90s walking down the street and going to the grocery store themselves. So which kinds of movement are the most important? It really comes down to two main groups. We have our aerobic exercise, and these are things like walking, bike riding, swimming, anything that gets our heart pumping. And we have anaerobic exercise or weight-bearing activity. This can be achieved from weight training or lifting heavy things, and they're extremely important for our muscle health, our joint health, and our bone health, and even our brain health. And for improving our longevity, we really need to have both elements in play for the long term. The more we can engage in different kinds of movement every single day, the more benefit we're going to have. So if you're living a busy lifestyle and you're not currently on any exercise regimen at all, start by increasing the little movements in your day. Try parking farther away in the parking lot and force yourself to walk across the parking lot just to go into or out of the store. Taking the stairs more often than the elevator is one way to increase activity and movement very simply without adding up a lot of time. Walking to do an errand, if it's within reach of your house, is a really simple way to increase movement as well. Any of the little things that you can do will really add up over the long term. What's our pillar number 2 of the Mediterranean diet and lifestyle? Well, it's to get adequate amounts of rest. The Mediterranean region of the world is often famous for things like siestas or afternoon naps, taking long and enjoyable vacations, relaxing. All of these things are a huge aspect of the Mediterranean diet and lifestyle, and it's what gives so much health benefit when it comes to lower levels of stress, improved mental health, improved mood and well-being, and is a vital component of our body's ability to recover and repair itself. And there are many ways that rest can be incorporated into a healthy lifestyle. It's about improving the quality of our sleep. If we're not getting enough sleep, it's trying to improve the quantity. Maybe it's taking naps, and maybe it's just taking that needed vacation. A lot of the health benefit of this approach extends well beyond the kitchen. We can be eating a perfectly calculated diet all day long, but if we're stressed, running around, and we're sleep deprived, we're still going to have consequences on our health for the long term, and maybe even in the short term. And not only this, but we know that adequate sleep is really important for our emotional health, even our immune system function. What's great is that engaging in more periods of rest can often coexist with increasing the amount of socialization we're doing. If we're taking a vacation, maybe we're spending extra quality time with family or friends or partners. And all of this fosters a very holistic approach to living our lives that is ultimately giving us a lot of benefit for the long term. And that's the name of the game for longevity. What I love about this pillar of the Mediterranean lifestyle is that it really touches on the interconnectedness of physical and mental health. The mind-body connection is not something that's really debated. It is very real, and a lot of us have experienced it before. If we're stressed, it can go into our body. If our body's unwell, it's going to stress us out. And giving ourselves enough time to rest and relax is absolutely of vital importance. And speaking of mental health, this brings us to pillar number 1 of the Mediterranean diet and lifestyle. And that is to enjoy the simple pleasures of life. Now, beyond all of the nutritional benefit and the rest and the de-stress and the exercise, the Mediterranean region are cultures that have been around for hundreds and thousands of years. Part of the reason these civilizations have survived for so long is because the people are living in a way that they enjoy. And if we're not enjoying our life, I promise you we're not doing it right. So when it comes to enjoying life overall, we can really break this down into how we enjoy little things in our days. Are we enjoying our meals? Are we enjoying our minutes to ourselves? Are we able to pause and enjoy the nature that's around us? Are we enjoying the people that we're with? Can we appreciate beauty in all of its forms, in music, in art, in success, and in accomplishments? Being able to pause and savor the sweet moments of life are absolutely one of the things that help improve our ability to live a long time. And very likely, enjoying life and being grateful for the things that we have and the things that are around us are going to improve our mood, improve our overall mental well-being, and probably impact our ability to be healthy. What I love about this component of the Mediterranean diet and lifestyle is that enjoying the simple pleasures of life really tie all of the other pillars together. If we can focus on improving our enjoyment of everything we engage in, then we're going to start thinking about our diet in a way of, okay, am I enjoying this? Am I enjoying this deeply? Not just, do I enjoy the way it tastes? Do I enjoy the way it makes me feel? Same thing with exercise and movement. Am I enjoying the periods of rest that I'm taking? Or am I just taking a pause from my work only to think about work? It helps us really wrap our heads around everything that we're doing in our lives and how one component feeds into another. So in summary, it's that recognizing and embracing moments of joy can really deliver when it comes to living a more vibrant and full life. And together, all 5 of these pillars help create a comprehensive framework for living well and balanced. And this balance is what lays the foundation for sustainability. And as we said at the beginning, sustainability and simplicity are really the key. So since we're talking about a lifestyle, none of these components individually are really what's going to do all of the work. It's about creating a matrix and engaging with all 5 of them together to give us so much health benefit for the long term. And if you're ready to dive into how to start eating and adopting this way of life today, I recommend checking out my comprehensive guide that's up here. It's going to give you so many ideas for what to eat for all of your meals. Jump into that video and I'll see you in there.